Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fish Tank. My name's BadasFish80 and today we are going to be going through some more changes to Minion Masters. There's been a hotfix that dropped today in response to a lot of the changes that were brought about, the new meta, things that were too strong based on the patch from last week. Remember last week a huge amount of changes happened. Mana's faster, XP's faster, flying minions can't take bridges anymore, spells got a nerf across the board. So there's been a huge amount of changes and this is a hotfix to address some of the issues that have arisen because of that. This is going to be version 1.26.50375. We've got some interesting changes to go through, and let's get into them. Some of them not so interesting, but overall, I think some good changes. So let's have a look here. So the first thing we've got is the Bannerman. Now the Bannerman has had a nerf cost up to 4, so the cost from 3 up to 4, but to make it less painful, his damage has gone up from 15 to 25. So not really sure about that. Didn't really see that one coming, but Bannerman has received a nerf and a little bit of love. Now, Blood Pact. Master damage has been increased. So remember, Blood Pact is a unit. If a unit has Blood Pact, when it receives damage, it passes a percentage of that damage back to the Master Tower. We've had a lot of changes with regards to this. And that's gone up now from 66% to 75% of the damage back to the Master Tower, including overkill damage. So be careful with your Blood Imps out there. So the Blood Pact affects the Blood Imps, the Brutish Betrayer, and units that come from the Gorax Gate. So we've seen a lot of people, well, we've seen some people play triple Brutish Betrayer, and this is going to definitely hurt that setup. Colossus. Now, as we go through this, you'll see there's a lot of bigger units that have had a health nerf. So the Colossus has had its health reduced from 1200 to just around 1000. Combustion. If you played last week or earlier this week, you would have seen a lot of Combustion there on the ladder, especially with the new Divine Warrior with the Divine Shield. And we'll see some changes to that as well. But Combustion, the cost has gone up from 3 mana to 4 mana, and importantly, the damage that it does to the unit it's on is now true damage. That means you can't place it on a unit that has a Divine Shield and protect the unit completely. So if you play it on a Divine Warrior, it will take damage through the Divine Shield. Now it's important to note that's only the self-damage. The damage that it does outward to other units is just regular damage, so that can be protected by shields and things like that. So that's a definite nerf to the Combustion. Crossbow Guild. Its health has been reduced, the duration has been reduced, its production has been increased a little bit, so it's going to be overall less valuable as a spawner building. Divine Shield. Now we mentioned about this earlier with the Combustion going through it with the true damage. Now the duration of the Divine Shield has been reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, and that's going to affect the Divine Warrior, Ardera, as well as Caliph. Of course, Ardera is going to be the units that she shields on her death. Haunting Hugger, we kind of called this when we saw the changes. It was very surprising that this went to a 1 mana, back up to a 2 mana. Just a simple change to bring it back to where it was before. Yahoon, a couple of changes here. Again, like we saw with the Colossus, the health has gone down from 1200 to 1000. But also the Sunder spell has received a nerf. So remember, when you play Yahoon, you get the 0 cost Sunder spell. Now, instead of doing 2 lots of 75 damage to face, it will only do 2 lots of 25 damage to face. So 150 overall damage down to 50 to face. Still does 150 damage in 2 lots of 75 to units, but it's going to be less powerful on face. Living Statue. We've seen a lot of Living Statue and a lot of Living Statue Combustion. So Living Statue is going to have its health again reduced from 1200 to 1000, and that's going to affect the Living Statue, the Impatient Statue, the statue that comes from Rock Rivals. Now remember, the statue that you get from Rock Rivals is given to your opponent, so this is a buff for Rock Rivals in effect, because the statue you're giving to your opponent is going to be less valuable. And of course you can get a statue from Slithering Summons as well. Now the Mancers, the Spirit Mancer and the Blast Mancer, they've had their radius reduced from 14 to 10. Now I think they were also supposed to have their effect radius reduced from 14 to 10 as well, but it seems to still be 14 in the game. So we'll see if that gets evened out. So remember, the spirit, the radius of the spirit or the blast is from where the unit that died is. And the other thing that people were a little bit confused about in the patch notes, it can only trigger once per unit. And what that means is if you've got multiple Spirit Mancers or multiple Blast Mancers, if they're both targeted on one unit, for example, you've got 2 Spirit Mancers on one unit, that unit dies, you'll no longer get a spirit from each Spirit Mancer. You'll only get 1 spirit. And the same with the Blast Mancer, you'll only get 1 explosion. So that's just a nerf for the situation when there's more than one of them. Mardred, again another unit, a big tanky unit, 1200 HP down to 1000. Nearveer, now Nearveer didn't get a health reduction like all of the other big units, but Nearveer Slumbers, the card, which is the one that appears in your deck before you've reached a Cursed Ascension. The spell, Nearveer Slumbers, is gone from 3 mana up to 4 mana. So that's a bit of a nerf, but also that means that the 4 mana can now be reduced by Morelia's spellbook. So that's something to consider with your Accursed decks. If you're looking to run 2 4 mana spells, maybe this could be one of them. Right, Pincer of Dread. Now, big changes to the Pincer. If you played recently, Pincer was everywhere. Not only was its removal incredible, but it would also fear everything. But things have changed. Now, the damage it does has been reduced from 170 to 130. So that means there's some things that it will no longer kill, like Spirit Mancers or Blast Mancers, among various other things. So its kill threshold has gone down. But the way the fear works has completely done a 180. So now it only fears if it doesn't kill the target. So remember, previously it would fear if it killed the target. So not only did you get a kill, you got the huge fear effect as well, which was a little bit too strong. So now it only fears if it doesn't kill, and the fear is restricted to the unit that you target it on. Okay? So you either kill something with it, or if it doesn't kill it, it does the 130 damage to the unit and then fears that unit. So if you have a Colossus with a bunch of stuff around it, if you use this on it, it will do 130 damage to the Colossus, assuming the Colossus has got decent HP, and then it will fear only that Colossus. So that's a big change to the Pincer of Dread. Before, not only would it be very strong removal, but it would fear everything in that area, which was just insane. So that's big changes to the Pincer of Dread. And it's still useful, but its usability is very different now than it was previously. Priestess. Now, this seems like a really simple change, but it actually has a very big impact on the way Priestess works. So you've removed her basic attack, which means you can't, for example, now just spawn a Mardred and go, oh, I haven't got any anti-air, let me throw a healer behind. We've got some anti-air and a healer. Okay, so that's one of the things that the removed basic attack does. But also, because she doesn't attack, she doesn't stop moving. Now, the previous Priestess would move until she got into an attack position, and then she would stop and attack a unit. But now she's not attacking, she'll continue to move forward. Now, she is a slow unit amongst the other slow units as well, but she will continue to move forward. So now if you've got a big push with a Priestess behind it, and you do something to stall that push, the Priestess will continue to move forward. And potentially get into harm's way, whereas before she would sit behind it. So that's a big change to the way Priestess has been performing. So we'll see how that lands on the ladder. We didn't really see too much of it today. We had a day of playing with these changes. We didn't see too much Priestess action out there, but we did do a lot of solos. But yeah, that's a big change to Priestess, and we'll see how that lands. Razor Squadron, attack cooldown's been increased, so that's an overall DPS nerf. Very high DPS unit, maybe too high. Now they've reduced it a little bit. Red Golem, again, a high HP unit receiving an HP nerf. 1400 down to 1200 when it's activated, and its damage has been reduced from 350 to 300. So that's quite a substantial damage nerf. And of course, if you're looking at a red golem with rage or berserker rage, then that nerf substantially scales up with the 50% extra damage and 100% extra damage. Swarmer totem, as with the crossbow guild, less health, less duration, production increased a little bit, but overall less value from it. Troubadour, again, the high HP units, 1800 HP, sorry, down to 1500. And the Wrecked Walker, this is a little of an interesting one. So its HP hasn't been, its max HP hasn't been changed, but its starting HP has been changed. So just like with the Groggy Woodsman, it spawns with damage. It doesn't spawn with full HP. So its max HP is 150, but darts with health of 100. Not really fully understanding that change, but we've seen a lot of people play this with the Once Bitten to get a very cheap werewolf, and this reduction in starting health means that the nerfed Pincer, for example, will still trade well with it. So that's just a quick overview of the changes that we've seen in today's hotfix. I must say I'm happy with the way Bearded Dwarf have reacted to their big changes, and then they're hotfixing now to try to get the game into as comfortable a position as possible. Now we'll put a link in the chat, sorry, not the chat, I'm used to streaming, in the description, so you can follow and check out the changes for yourself. We'll see, based on these changes, how they land. There are, I believe, other things that the devs are looking at next. We know Wrecked is a bit, in cycle decks, a bit maybe overpowered. There has been some talk of some wildcard changes, so we're looking out to see what comes with those. Breath, Nivea's Breath is still very strong in duos and when it's wildcarded. Also, things like the Crystal Elves with the Guardians are also very strong as well. So these are all things that are on the devs' radar. They're aware of them. They're trying to get the game into as a balanced and as fair position as possible. So a big shout out to them for doing so. I'm enjoying my time with the game as always, and hopefully you guys are too. If you're new to Minion Masters, go check it out. It's free. It's on Steam for free. It's on Xbox for free, and it's coming to phones soon. But thanks so much for dropping by and spending a little bit of time with me here in the fish tank. I'm normally live on Twitch, but we also put content here. Check out Sneak Energy. We are sponsored by them. You can see the logo behind me. You can use code FISH at sneakenergy.com. Buy a chair if you want. Secret Lab. Again, check our affiliate link. But thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you again soon here in the fish tank.